resistance, is that what we would call it? Yeah. Anyway, what everyone has been waiting for tonight is Anthony Scaramucci. And it is my pleasure to introduce you to him now. And he's so gracious. He said he will sign books outside and he will take pictures, whatever we want. So we're so very, very grateful to him, and we are sure looking forward to hearing him speak. Yes.
You're here. What a great honor to be here. Congressman Dunn, thank you for your service to the country. Colonel Mose, thank you for your service. You know, today is the 77th anniversary, I guess you can call it an anniversary, of the Pearl Harbor attack. And so I can remember George Herbert Walker Bush on the 50th anniversary when he was president. He went there and paid homage to those troops. And I just want to thank you for your service, sir, because it's an incredible nation because of people like you who have fortified the country and frankly built what we are all able to take advantage of now. And so it's our job here to stand on the shoulders of these giants and to make the country better for our children and our grandchildren. Thank you so much, Christianné, for putting this together. But the number one person that I actually really have to thank, and I actually dedicated my book to, is my wife Deirdre, who is standing in the back over there. So I want to thank you for so many different things. Two beautiful children, but also she has compassion, and she's the definition of being a Christian person, where she believes in forgiveness and family and all the things that you guys are fighting for. So I love my wife. I just want to say thank you for we're standing at a big moment in history, and so what I would like to do is just talk for 3 or 4 minutes, give you my view. If you've seen me on television, and some of you came up to me during the cocktail party, you have seen me on television. I have a tendency to be very shy and introverted on TV. I have a tendency to hold myself back in situations, so I promise to try not to do that. I'm going to come out of my shell a little bit for you guys here. And what I would say to you is that, and I said this at the cocktail hour, I just want you to imagine that it's the 2nd anniversary of the President Clinton, Secretary Clinton, becoming president, and it's the 2nd anniversary of her term. And it's her Supreme Court picks, and it's her 25 justices, and it's her organization and apparatus as it relates to regulation. You know, the Congressman Dunn talked about a 22-to-1 ratio. It would have probably been a 50-to-1 ratio in the opposite, sir. Yeah. And you know that would have slowed down the economy, and we'd be sitting here scratching our heads about 1% growth, and we'd be saying, well, why are we at 1% growth? The president understood that intuitively. You know, I'm going to shut this off. I think you guys can hear me in the back. Yep. Is that okay? I'll shut it off. Not really? Not really. All right, so I'll leave it on. And it's only I apologize for the humming on the thing, but what you have to understand is that good business people understand that if you take the government off of the back of businesses, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, super large businesses like Coca-Cola, you can really grow. And so the government should be there to help people. It should be there to provide a safety net. It should be there to provide a very strong national security agenda. It should definitely put a hurt on our enemies, and it should protect our allies. But what it shouldn't do is get in the business community and start allocating capital and start messing around, if you will, with the markets. So I want to spend a couple minutes on my book, and then I'm going to take questions. And so when I sat down to write the book, you know, the joke was, well, you only spent 11 days in the White House, is going to write an 11-page book. I said, well, I got a big mouth, so it's going to be a lot longer than 11 pages. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to capture something in the book. I had read J.D. Vance's book, Hillbilly Elegy. I don't know if any of you have seen that book. I was very impressed with this book. I had a chance to meet with him, and I interviewed him. And he grew up in Appalachia. He went into the U.S. Marine Corps, and he talked about the poverty that he lived with in his life and how he rose from that poverty because of the American experiment, because of the American dream. And so I read that. I said, wow, I'm super lucky. I grew up in a blue-collar family with blue-collar parents. They didn't go to college. My dad was Started out as an hourly worker, and but we lived a really nice middle-class life. We were in a suburban area outside of New York. My dad was basically what they used to call a sand miner out on Long Island. Long Island, as I write in the book, is a big glacial deposit. When the glacier left during the Ice Age, it left Long Island, Block Island, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket. The elbow of Cape Cod is actually all part of the remnants of that glacier recession. So there was a very large sand deposits on Long Island, and for 42 years, my dad worked in the sand mines in the town that I grew up in. And so when I think about Appalachia, and I think about the coal mining towns, way more poor than the area we grew up in. We grew up in a very, moderately to very, very affluent area, although I lived in the middle class side of that area. But I will take you to my father's 1975 wages, because I priced them out in 2015. His 2015 wages in 1975, if you matched it, those wages, so the very same man, if you will, operating the same machinery that my dad operated in 1975, was making about 32% less in real economic terms for his family. And so if you backed into, because I'm an economist by training, if you back into that, what is it? It's an EBT card from the government. It's some level of government assistance. You're not going to make it to where I have been able to make it. Because I'm the product of a very good public school system. I went to Tufts, and then I went on to Harvard Law School. My mother thought it was Harvard Law School. I'm not making it up. You can ask my wife. She said, "You're going to Harvard?" I said, "No, Mom, I'm going to Harvard." She said, "Is Harvard, Connecticut?" "No, Mom. It's not in Harvard, Connecticut." "Are you sure it's not at Harvard, Connecticut? It's Harvard Law School, right?" "No, Mom. It's Harvard Law School. It's down the block from Tufts." That's the family I grew up in, okay? If you're Italian in here, you know. But you don't have to fact check that. There's no fake news in that. You know. So that was the family I grew up in, and so I'm going to tell you something that's embarrassing to me. I wanted to become financially independent, so what I did was I went to Tufts, Harvard Law School, went to Goldman Sachs, and then I started my first business 22 years ago on December 1st. And then I sold that business successfully, and then I built another business, the one I returned to after I got blasted out of the White House by John Kelly. And so my business now is Skybridge Capital. It's 14 years old, running about $10, $11 billion under management, servicing about 41,000 customers. And what happened to me, and maybe it's happened to you, and I hope to God it hasn't happened to you, but it did happen to me. In the course of trying to become financially independent and living the American dream, I started insulating myself with very wealthy people. I started insulating myself with people that sort of have the same confirmed biases about the society that I had. And so I started missing what I just described to you that was going on in blue-collar America and lower middle-class America, was going on for people like my dad that didn't go to college, that were trying to make it for their families and willing to work 60, 70 hours a week, but didn't have the education, and so they were required to work an hourly wage. And I share this with you because it wasn't until I got on the president's campaign, and I write about it in the book. I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I'm going to my first campaign rally with the president, and he's such a character. I mean, you have no idea what a character. Whatever you think of him as a character, you got to exponentially take it to the ninth power. You have no idea. And he's so much fun to hang out with. But we're coming off the plane. I said, you spent the whole time on the plane like gossiping and talking business. I said, you're running for president. I said, where's the speech? And he takes out this piece of paper. There's 3 notes on the paper. Well, that's my speech. Don't worry, I know exactly what I'm doing. Just relax. You relax, okay? You relax. There's going to be a lot of people there. I said, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people there. He goes, do you think Hillary Clinton's writing speeches like this? I just want to know. You think she's writing? I said, probably not. I have no idea. We get off the campaign plane, the Trump plane. He goes down to the base of the plane. The Albuquerque chief of police is there to greet him. And the president says, hey, how are you doing? Is there a Jimmy John's near here, or Jimmy John's? It looks like a sandwich shop, right? The guy's like, shh. Is there a Jimmy John's anywhere? No, sir, there's no Jimmy John's. Because that's fine, that's fine. Is there a Burger King? Burger King here? Yeah, yes, sir. There's a Burger King about 1.2 miles away. Hey, Mooch, what do you want from Burger King? I don't want anything from Burger King. What are you talking about? And so he's ordering onion rings and Whopper Juniors, okay? Put them down the can plane as we're going home. And so we get to the Albuquerque Civic Center. There are 9,000 people inside the center. It's sold out. There are 7,000 people outside the Civic Center waiting for him on these two big flat screens. Okay, now I started with Jeb Bush. I'm not embarrassing that because I love the Bush family. If we got 300 people at an event, we were like giving a standing ovation to them. We had 16,000 people. Okay, and so what I did was I had a Secret Service day pin on. And that's where, you know, if the shooting starts, I'm not going to shoot you, they see the pin. So, you know, I was a little nervous, so the first hour I was like holding it up like this. Don't shoot me, don't shoot me. But then after an hour, I took the pin off, and I crossed the security perimeter, and I went into the crowd, and I started talking to people. You know, where are you from? Why are you here? Tell me a little bit about your family. And I'm going to tell you the composite, and then I'll take questions. What was the composite? The composite was, I'm here because we got to bring the jobs back. I'm here because I lost my job. You know, Anthony, this is New Mexico, but New Mexico is Mexico. Okay, we moved 65,000 factories, ladies and gentlemen, to Mexico in 25 years after NAFTA. 65,000 factories. And so one gentleman told me that his dad worked there for 30 years. And he was working there for 12, he just lost his job, and now he was at Lowe's, and then he had a job inside of Domino's Pizza, where he was working during the day collecting orders. And he said, so I really need a job, and you know, Mr. Trump is promising he's going to do his best to bring the jobs back. He's not the typical politician, I'm going to vote for him. I went home, and I relayed that story to my wife, and then I'm on the Harvard Law School Leadership Council. I went to the Harvard Law School leadership meeting, and the dean of the school was talking to us about the Brexit. So the day after the Brexit, we were having our dinner with the dean of the school, and she said, hey, I just got back from the UK, and everybody I met with told me there wasn't going to be a Brexit. And I raised my hand, and I wasn't trying to be pedantic or anything like that. I just said, Dean, I had to ask people, my fellow law school council members, how many of you have been to a Bernie Sanders or a Donald Trump rally? How many? None of them. I said, okay, listen, I'm a month into this thing. I've been to 3 Donald Trump rallies, 1 Bernie Sanders rally. Those are the people that voted for the Brexit. Those are the people that, for whatever reason, have felt left behind by the global economic experience over the last 30 years. And they want better policies from government, and they want better ideas to go back to the aspirational American society that we grew up in. I grew up in a blue-collar, aspirational, working-class family. Those families, ladies and gentlemen, have now become desperational. Okay, whatever the economic data is telling you, and the economic data, thankfully, as Congressman Dunn has pointed out, is very strong, and is very strong for a reason, because of the president's policies. And it can get better if we stay on course. But those people need that aspiration again. Those people need to share in the movement. So I'm done with my formal remarks. If I have time, Allison, I'm happy to take questions, and anything you guys want. Yeah, I'll take. I don't know the difference between on the record and off the record, so we can, it's no problem. Never held back before.
Hey, Adams.
Yeah, exactly. And yes, yes.
Do you have any regrets from your 11 days?
Yeah, I do have regrets. Yeah, I was fighting with my wife at the time. You may have saw that. Her and I were in a sort of fight. We love each other a great deal, and I do have regrets about the 11 days, and they're more personal than they are professional. And so, good news is for Deirdre and I, we were able to put our marriage back together. But here's the thing I would tell you about my 11 days. I can sum up, and it's a cautionary tale for the younger people that are in the room. Don't put your pride and your ego into your decision making. And so I'll tell you what happened to me. Reince Priebus and Steve Bannon, who I thought were friends of mine, we worked very closely on the campaign together. I was supposed to be the president's OPL director. And so the president offered me that job, I accepted the job, and then I did what I thought you were supposed to do, I put my company up for sale. And then those guys did what you people, all of us, would hate about Washington. They oppoed me, and they started writing nasty stories about me, and they blocked me from getting that job. And then the minute they blocked me from getting that job, I put my pride and my ego into my decision making, and then I was very hell-bent on getting the job no matter what. And it hurt my family, hurt my relationship with my wife, and it hurt me. And so when I ended up getting a job, which was the comms job, which may or may not have been the right job for me, I was in there with a vengeance, and I was in there, the president gave me a mission to fire those two guys, and I was in there to fire those two guys, and I went a little bit too aggressively. And so what I would say to you is don't put your pride and your ego into your decision making. Anytime that I've done that in the 30 years that I've been in business, it's been a disaster for me. And so don't do that, okay? And so I write a lot of funny stories about how I did that. One of the things I say is, I probably shouldn't have started my first day in the White House with a chainsaw and a hockey mask. I probably shouldn't have done that, but I watched a lot of Halloween movies as a kid, and I was ready for those guys.
Thank you for doing this, Anthony.
Yeah,
we have a White House press corps that clearly is not objective.
Yeah.
Why don't they cycle through reporters from all over the country and, as opposed to always the same 20, 30 people?
Okay, it's a really good question, sir. So the White House press corps, believe it or not, badged, okay, because I actually looked at this in my 11 days, is 1,700 people. It's 954,000 seconds if you were counting the seconds. But there's 1,700 people. So it does circulate, but I think you're asking a more macro question is, it probably circulates a little, but they're all extremely biased against the president. And the Harvard study, 92% of them are biased against the president. Why don't they bring in some people from areas of the country that could be more positive towards the president? Is that more or less the question?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Let me give you the bad news. The major news media is really the people that get those press passes. And so the major news media cycle through President Trump as follows. Okay, this is funny. He's a reality television star that's going to run for president. He is going to slip up and crash and burn. He will never make it to the presidency. Let's give him a lot of coverage in the beginning, and then we're going to watch his car crash and his demise. And when his car catches fire, we'll be there joyous. You know, the German word is Schadenfreude. I get pleasure from your pain. And so their instincts were, we're going to watch him crash and burn and humiliate himself, and we'll be joyous. And so they played right into him. Okay, so what he did was he manipulated them in a way that you've never seen before, and I write about that in the book. And so he got tremendous media impressions, billions and billions of dollars of media impressions, and then he beat the pants off of it. You see that? He beat the pants off of it. And so when you beat the pants off of somebody, they get sore at you. And so, and then they declared war on the people that they beat the pants off of. And I always disagree with that, sir. I said that to the president first day I took the job, and the first day I was at that podium. I said, sir, we don't need to declare a war. You've won the war. Okay, the war's over. Okay, what we need to do is we need to forge a peace with these people. Even if they hate us, we got to talk to them in a certain way where the American people will recognize that we're trying to bridge that gap. But you're never going to beat them at their game, so they just don't like him. They don't like the fact that he beat the pants off of them. Congressman, you got a question?
Yeah, so for the record, I think you're pretty good at communication, so I think you were the right guy. But
But I did make a mistake. There was a reporter who, his father worked with my dad for 50 years. He was an Italian kid from the town over from me. He called me and he asked me if he could do a profile on me, and I laughed and I said, I'm not as self-promotional as Steve Bannon, and then I said something I regret, which I won't repeat. And it's obviously a little bit of fake news, and I can explain to you why. But the truth of the matter is, he ran to CNN with that team. And so his job was typical Washingtonian transactional nonsense. He could have had a very good long-term relationship with me, but he wanted to destroy me.
Just take a shot.
And
So give us what you think we should be doing to win in 2020, and I mean win the White House, and also your prediction for the 2020.
Okay, so, I mean, I'm deliberating because I want to be as open, as honest as I can possibly be. I'm not really a spin person. I mean, one of the reasons why I think I can get invited on these different networks is I'll sort of tell the truth. I'm always acting in the president's best interest, by the way. Okay, if you hear me say something where, I'm explaining to the president on TV, because I know he's watching, he called me after Bill Maher. I was on Bill Maher with Stormy Daniels. He can't even make this stuff up. And so he was obviously watching. He called me and he was like critiquing my media appearance, and we were laughing with each other. And so you know, when I'm on the TV and you hear me say something, it's not a hit or an attack of the president. It's me saying, hey, he could have a 75% approval rating like he said today. Let's get you there, and there's a way to get you there. Okay, there's a way to soften things up a little. There's a way to be more strategic on Twitter. Certainly don't get off Twitter. Let's be more strategic. There's a way to engage the media. So what will end up happening is the media will eventually embarrass and burn themselves out with the American public. You know, if we engage them in a certain way, okay, and he's less bellicose with the rhetoric. Okay, now, Allison made me promise something, and I'm going to get in trouble with her tonight, but it's okay. Because I just proved to you guys that I really love the president, and I'm operating with the best intelligence. She's like, please don't say anything negative about the president. I'm not in love with the Rex Tillerson tweet.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to explain to you why. Okay, because you know, his wife Melania Trump, the first lady, is working on Be Best. You know, and I have young children, and you know, he's fighting, and I understand he's upset about certain stuff. He doesn't want people hitting or attacking him, and I understand he's got a 50-year history of fighting back. But what he said about Rex Tillerson, you know, it's too much. It's over the line for him. He doesn't need to go there. He is winning on policy. He's winning on deregulation. He's winning on the Supreme Court. And what will happen is they'll turn that into a 3 to 5 point headwind against him that we don't need. Okay, and so I say that out of love for the president, respect for the president, and wanting to see the president do better. It's not me being critical of him, but if I was sitting there where they said, don't tweet that, you don't need to tweet that. The president of the United States, you're the leader of the free world. So I'll make a prediction. He will win a resounding landslide, but he is a Swiss Army knife. What he will do is he will pull two or three things out of his toolbox in that Swiss Army knife that you don't even anticipate right now. You know, he may cut a deal with the Democrats on immigration or on infrastructure, and he'll win by a landslide next time, because this is a guy that is very hard to fight with, okay? And whoever's running against him, okay, will have an internationally recognized nickname for the rest of their lives.
Tell them a little bit when he's on the campaign plan and asks you if the tweet is presidential.
So I write about that in the book. So Corey can really tell you some really fun stories from the beginning, you know. And I love Corey. Corey, David, and I are very, very close friends. And we're loyal to the president, you know. I write in my book, I'm FPR, I'm fired but loyal, FPL, fired but loyal. My attitude is I got fired, I don't care. You know, it's politics, okay? Here's another thing, and you asked me about my mistakes in 11 days. I think one thing, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, I did reasonably well. After I got fired, I didn't get bitter about it. After I got fired, I didn't be all upset and hang a millstone over my neck of victimization. You know, don't do that. If you're a young person in the room, you cannot do that, okay? You just let it go, okay? Go live your life and have a sense of humor about things. But what he used to do is he would send out a tweet, you'd be on the plane with him, he'd look over you, he'd make that frog face. You know, you've seen that with the face. Of course it's not presidential. And then he would say something to you, and you'd have to give him credit for this. He said, well, if it was presidential, then I couldn't be president. I wouldn't be able to beat these guys. Because if I form-fitted myself to them, then I would have never beat these guys. It was my lack of spinning. It was my lack of formality that enabled me to capture the presidency. You see that? And so if you think this guy isn't smart, I'm telling you, I've seen this guy up close. He is wicked smart. He's just smart in a different way than these other people. But there are things he can do that can get his approval rating to where I would like to see it. You know, I mean, there's no reason why, if you looked at, you know, Congressman Dunn listed for you guys so many different things that he's done. And he knows, and I know, because it's a short speech that he made, it's the tip of the iceberg. Okay, and so he knows it's a very big, deep iceberg of things that he's done to actually save America. And so, to me, you know, if you really got that out there and you expressed that, and you got that into the domain, he would have a much higher approval rating. But I do think he's going to win the election. Why don't I take 2 more questions, okay, and then we'll break.
We have somebody on the way, so keep going for another 5-10 minutes.
5, 10 minutes. You know, I can breathe through my ears when I'm speaking. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. You're intelligent, great Italian. So anyways,
What part of Brooklyn are you from?
Ward 310 Ward. So anyways, what I wanted to ask you, what is your impression? I see in reality the Democrats stick together on every issue and back each other and attack the Republicans, and on every issue, particularly the one with a special prosecutor. I never see a Republican say anything that supports another Republican, or the president on this. What is this?
Listen, I'm going to say something you guys are probably not going to like, and you know, Allison, don't throw anything at me. But here's the problem, right? The establishment has failed the country. Okay, and I can give you the Liz pendants of what happened. Okay, I've observed it. Okay, I can give you a 35-year Liz pendant since Reagan, and you know, by the way, President Bush will go down in history. The first one, very smart guy. He put us on the path for fiscal stability. Okay, and whether you like President Clinton or not like President Clinton, he adhered to the pay-as-you-go legislation of President Bush, and we were tracking a $200 billion surplus at the end of 2000. And if they had just stuck to the plan, we wouldn't have done what we did, which was spend $10 trillion of borrowed money over the last 11 and a half years. But the establishment has done a horrific job, okay? This is a very bad place, sir. Okay, I'm telling you that. I experienced it. I experienced the ugliness of this place. Okay, it's not a swamp. It's a gold-plated hot tub. And what they do is they look at you and they say, can this guy be bought? Yeah. Bought? Can't be bought. Bought? Okay, you can be bought. That's great. Come into the hot tub with us. And here's 2 bottles of champagne, and here's some cigars, and let's play the game of Washington lobbying and corpocracy and corporate welfare. And we don't really care about the American people. We just want to feather our beds. You see that, sir? Yeah, and they're doing that on both sides. And so when he comes in, let me ask you, do you think the president can be bought?
No.
Look at the life that he's lived, okay? And whether he's worth 10 billion, 1 billion, 5 billion, it really doesn't matter. He's lived an unbelievable life. Can he be bought?
No.
Okay. You think I can be bought, sir? I cannot be bought, okay? So when I was at that White House podium for 46 minutes in front of 50 I don't know how many seconds I was there. It was a lot of fun for me because I answered every question.
But tell them about the important hires you made and the legacy.
Well, I don't want to say that, but like I'm just saying, like when I said from that podium, you know, the truth about what was going on, that was the last day of my tenure. Okay, there were opposition research people on the Republican side that were trying to come in. You know what Chuck Schumer said to me? I'm actually friends with Chuck Schumer, okay? I don't agree with any of his politics, but he's been around New York enough where, you know, and he's a Harvard Law School alum. You know what Chuck Schumer said? Oh, no, I watched your press conference. We were going to kill you. We couldn't kill you, though. We got killed by the inside before we could kill you. But you got killed by Republicans. Understand that, sir? So the Republicans do not like President Trump. They had a very nice gold-plated hot tub that they were passing cigars and champagne in. He doesn't want that. He's trying to tell people, hey, settle down. Let's do what we need to do for the American people. Everybody can get a slice of the pie, but start focusing on people that have been disenfranchised from the system. That's the point of the book. That's the point of Blue Collar President. But, you know, Nicole's mentioning about my life for 11 days. But I did 3 things. Right? I turned the lights on in the press room.
Right.
Because I didn't want the president to be embarrassed by what Sean was doing by shutting the lights off, okay? This gentleman here fought in 3 wars. He fought for our freedom. And the First Amendment is the freedom of the press. And you may not like these people, all 1,700 of them. You may not like them. They have the right to do that. This gentleman, and there's other veterans in here, Congressman Dunn, fought for their right to be there. Okay, so those lights and cameras had to go on because you have to hold people that are in power. People that are in power get a little crazy. Trust me. They do, because power corrupts. And so what the founders understood is hold the people in power accountable with the help of the free press. So number one, I turned the lights and cameras back. The second thing I did was I made Sarah the press secretary. I talked to her last night. Sarah loves me. Sarah loves me for making her the permanent press secretary, and she hates me. She hates me. But you know, and I was with Governor Huckabee, her dad, in Israel, like in July, and he was like, you know, look, at the end of the day, you were really trying your hardest to do the right thing. And then the third thing I did, which I thought was important for me, is I was hiring a hair and makeup artist. I thought I needed that. I think my Mac 35 looks great tonight. I don't know what you guys think. I think I got the anti-shine on right now. Looks great for me. All right, so why don't I take 2 more questions and then I'll let you guys go. Yes.
You were speaking about the press. What do you think about Acosta?
Okay, so and if Jim was here, the question is, what do I think about Jim Acosta? You talk about the press, okay? So if Jim was here, I would say the exact same thing that I'm about to say right now. That's one of my problems, okay? I am a front-stabbing sort of a person. I am not a backstabber, okay? You want to know what I think? I'm going to tell you what I think. What I would say to Jim is you absolutely have the right to handle yourself and do what you're doing. But you're making a critical mistake that the American people don't like. You're making yourself part of the story. And so what's happening in, what is your name? So when Lisa's asking me about the mistake that I made, Jim's making the same mistake. He's putting his pride and his ego into the game, and he wants to make himself the story. So the president's declared these guys the enemies of the people. He shouldn't be doing that, but he's doing that. And so Jim is upset about that, and so now he's got his ego in there. He's in a full bull charge, okay, after the president and the administration. And so he's making classic mistakes that is disenfranchising him from those other 1,700 people that have press badges. And so if Jim Acosta was in this room, I would say to him, Jim, you have the right to do that. I read the First Amendment and took constitutional law at Harvard Law School. You have the right to do that. And I would have told the president, and I told Bill Shine this, by the way. Bill Shine's one of my best friends. When the president gave me the job, I said, you know what? I got to hire somebody better than me to do that job. And I went and recruited Bill Shine, the president of Fox News. And I told Bill Shine when they went to go into the lawsuit and take his press pass away, I said, you're going to lose. I know I'm going to lose, but I'm trying to send him a message. I said, I guess it's wrong for the president. Because at the end of the day, the president's got to stay there and take the hits. I love seeing the president in the spray outside. He's got the top coat on, you know, how he moves his body a little bit, or movement, right? You know, you see him out there, right? And then when he wants to leave, he can go to the helicopter, right? But he's answering the questions. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? But Jim has become part of the story, and he's put, Lisa asked me a really good question. I tried to answer it honestly. He put his pride and his ego into it now. And I would tell Jim, if I worked at CNN, knock it off. You're making the other people in the press corps look bad. Okay, so why don't I take one more question? Yes, sir.
Anthony, looking forward to 2020.
Yeah.
What do you even think the Democrats have as far as firepower to even go against Trump?
Yeah.
Because the current landscape now, from a debating perspective, from a personality,
Yeah.
who do they even have, do you think? And I'm not underestimating them, I'm just curious your thoughts.
Okay, so you know, listen, I said this the other day on Fox and Friends. I said that unfortunately, for the Democrats, I don't see anybody on their side that can handle him at a debating podium.
Yes,
okay?
agreed.
Just because of the way his personality is, okay? He likes the mud, man.
Yeah.
You know, there are farmers in Iowa who say, hey man, don't get in a fight with a pig. Because the pig likes it. You're going to get all muddy and bloody, the pig's going to be biting you and throwing you in the mud. It's going to be snorting and oinking and just loving it. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, and he loves it. Okay, and like I said, you have an internationally known nickname, and he'll drive you crazy. Okay? And you know, I was in Belgium a couple of weeks ago. I talked about the Trump Twitter inset light. Now, let me explain to you about this light. Okay, it's blue, like the Twitter color. It's blue, and it looks like that little Twitter logo, right? And what he does is, for some reason, he can get inside your brain. Okay, so he can shoot a tweet, Pocahontas. I got more Indian blood than you. I have no Indian blood. Yeah, that's what he does, right? So now the tweets are going in, and now the tweet hits the inside of that person's melon. It goes into the ear, and it's inside the melon, and it's about to detonate, right? Now that poor person, everyone around that person is saying, please don't get the DNA test. I'm begging you, don't get the DNA test. But that person cannot help themselves because they got the Trump Twitter insect light right here, and they're going right into the light. Okay? And so she's moving hard into the light. She gets the DNA test. She's 1/1024 Pocahontas. She's like proud of it, so she releases the DNA. Right? So now he's on the phone with me after my Bill Maher thing. He goes, should I call her Poe? I'm like, who are you talking about? Oh, Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas. She's got so little Native American Indian. Should I just call her Poe from now on? I'm thinking about Poe. What do you think of Poe? Please don't call her Poe. For some reason, the American people have accepted you calling her Pocahontas. It's no Pocahontas. I don't want to use all those syllables. She's not really having enough. You think I'm making this up? You can't make this stuff up. And I'm telling you this story because that's what he's going to do to everyone.
Yeah.
Right? So, I don't know. I think they're having a very tough time. Here's the thing, okay? Congressman asked a good question about the election. He will win the re-election, but he has to. Got to keep the economy going. Yeah. We got to keep us on plan. He's going to have to cut a deal, whether you guys like it or not, be less ideological in 2019 and 2020, because we've got to win the re-election. He's going to have to cut a deal with the Democrats. He's just going to have to do it. He knows it, I know it, and we've talked about it. So be prepared for it, and don't hurt him for it if he goes to do it, because he's going to need to do it. Yeah. I'm sorry this is whistling, but ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anthony. And what do you bet? He's going to be back in the White House.
No, that's the house I'm living in right there. See that one? She's like, no. I'm keeping my pride and ego out of it. So Martha McCallum, before I got here tonight, Deirdre and I went over to Fox News. And so I was actually on at 7 o'clock, even though I was here, because I taped it at 6. And she was like, okay, Kelly's gone. You know, I hate that. I got to be honest with you. He hurt the president. I know he's a Marine Corps guy, and I applaud his service and to the country. But as a guy for the president, he didn't help the president. You have to trust me on that. Okay? And I write about it very honestly. So she's like, okay, Kelly's gone. Are you going back? I'm like, my wife, if she was here right now, she'd say, don't listen to his spin, man. Because if he calls him and asks me to go back, he's 100% going back. Okay, but the truth of the matter is he's not going to ask me to go back. Because he's got plenty of really good people, and I can help him on the outside. And he needs help on the re-elect, and if you're inside the administration, you really can't help on the re-elect. So I won't be back.
Yeah.
But I will definitely be a supporter of his agenda and help him and his family as much as I can. Hey, think about this. I got fired and embarrassed. Don't forget that.
Yeah, loyalty is really a wonderful thing. It speaks very highly of one's integrity. Yeah, and
I want to see him do it.
Yeah.
By the way, he has the toughest job in the world. He doesn't needs our support, no matter what you think of him on a daily basis. You know, if you don't like one tweet or 2 tweets, big deal. He's got the toughest job in the world. Let's give him our support.
And we recognize that. That's stuff from the very, very beginning. we had sort of three things. We wanted to make sure that he got elected. We wanted to debunk the myth that women didn't like him. And we wanted to bring women of all ethnic backgrounds together just as Americans. And the final one was that we want to, and we still do, align our spirituality with our politics. Because if we get down in the weeds, we don't keep that light shining, we're going nowhere. We're going straight into the darkness where the others are.
I'm a very religious person.
Yeah.
I believe in all those things. But the other thing I want to do is personally thank you and all of the women, Virginia Women for Trump.
Yes, and
we flew down this morning, and it's very nice of you. And I hope you, if you read the book, you'll join my mom, and you'll be the second person who's actually. We really trying to write a very honest depiction of the situation. And by the way, I loaded it with my own faults. Trust me, there's a lot. I didn't spare anybody in the book, especially myself.
So I was going to say on that question too, I mean, just with the women and whatnot, how do you, and I know you kind of already did last question or whatnot, but millennials and women, obviously that's, you know, very democratic thing or whatever, and that's what they, you know, go for. How do we as Republicans, how do we shift that balance, in your opinion?
So weirdly, he does very well with a certain genre of millennials and young people. So Charlie Kirk is a personal friend of mine, Talking Points USA. And so if you got the president in what I would say is not his comfort zone, okay, and he did this with the African American Youth Conservative Caucus, he brought them into the White House. If we continue to do things like that, now, I'm not picking on the current OPL director because I don't know who it is, but when they offered me the job for OPL, I had an entire agenda for millennials. Because I think weirdly, the president will do very well in communities that you don't think he would do well in, if you can get those communities the facts through the filter of the mainstream media. And so I think he can do way better, and I think there's a big opportunity for him to do way better. And we'll see. We'll have to see how that thing works it out. Right now, you're going to see some personnel haranguing and some personnel changes. And I really hope that General Kelly doesn't go after the president. I'm just going to tell you what, if he goes after the president, I will be out there rebutting General Kelly. Okay, I'm just going to let you know. As much as I respect him and his military career, you don't serve the president. He doesn't ask you to be his chief. Look, remember this. I am American. American first. Okay? I live the American dream. The President of the United States asked me to serve the country. Whether it's 10 days, 10 hours, 11 days, 12 days, it really doesn't matter. He gave me that opportunity when it was no longer the right thing for him. He said, I don't want you, that's fine. That's his job. He's the commander-in-chief. So don't cut on him, okay? Now, a mooch is 11 days. Did you know that, Allison? It's 11 days. President Kelly has spent 46 mooches in the White House, which is 45 more mooches than me. So you better be nice to the guy on the way out. If you're not, you're going to be surprised at the harshness of the rebuttal if you're going to go after the guy. Don't do it. Okay? And I think Rex made a mistake. I just didn't think the president should have gone after him as hard as he did, because we got to get the president a different gearbox. He's doing so well on policy. We can get him to a 65% approval rating if we just focus on his record and all the great things he's doing. We don't have the media sniping at him for some of the stuff in the mud. Okay. Does that make sense? Are you mad?
No, I think you're wonderful. And
I want to make sure you're not mad at me.
No, not at all.
I got my orders on the way in.
You know, there are times when we kind of go, ooh, I wish he hadn't. But we stay the course with him. We understand. We see his brilliance. We know he's a brilliant man. And most of all, we know that God called him and he answered the call and put himself directly on the line for us.
He's taken a lot of hits. He had a great life before he did this. I'm not saying he doesn't have a great life now. Believe me, it's a privilege to be in the White House. And it's a privilege to serve and live in the people's house. But boy, he had a great life, man. He gave up a lot.
Yeah, he really did. And so now within 5 minutes, we're going to have somebody here. I know you'll all be very happy and very surprised. No, it's not a member of the Trump family, but it's someone that we all admire and that you will enjoy hearing. But before he comes, I would like to thank all the volunteers. Virginia Women for Trump is all volunteers. And it's just amazing the way you all come together and help me and support me. And I would like to thank my veteran husband.
Yes.
We just had our 35th wedding anniversary yesterday. And he's always here to help and support me. And when he's not around, John Kern picks up the slack.
And Alice, children in the military service?
Yes. We also have Maria Jimenez, who is our leader, one might say, with military families. And I was with her and the Gold Star families at the White House this week. So we have a lot of things going. We now have a family through that event, a mother left with 3 little children, and she is